Hi guys, I'm Simon Gregory and I'm going to take you on a brief track walkthrough of my new single Take Me Up, which is out now on Mondo Records. Okay, so here it is, the project file for Take Me Up. I'm just going to give you a very brief run through of how I put this one together. So at the top I've got a kick and a clap, which is basically a sample that I've used Ableton's Slice to MIDI feature to split out into a drum rack. So I'll just play these two for you. Just a kick and a clap. Light processing, so just a utility to boost it up a little bit in gain, just to help it fit in the mix better, and a slight boost in the low end to give the kick a bit more body. Sidechain, which is just a couple of muted kicks that I'm using to feed into Track Spacer to act as a sidechain channel. So nothing particularly special there. The percussive elements are all the hi-hats, which are a series of hi-hat loops, all grouped together on a group channel like this, just so that I can use an EQ to roll off all of the low-end frequencies, bits from these that you don't need. I've got an LFO tool, which is just acting as a side chain to give the rest of the mix a bit of space to breathe. Saturator, just to give the top end a bit of drive. And an EQ just to cut out some of the low end, the resonant frequencies from the very top. So just lay it up. I'll give you a brief view of what they sound like. Okay. Moving down, we've got the effects, which is all of the rises, the crashes, the impacts, and any other sort of fill-in effects that I would use on the track. This is just the ear candy, just helps the track not to get stale. Without them it would be a bit boring. So I'll give you a little bit of a view of those. So let me just solo that off. Just your risers and your impacts, various bits and pieces there. Okay, moving to the melodic elements. So down here I have the break bass, which is Anna, one that I really love. This is from Sonic Academy, and it's fantastic synth. Oh, got an update I need to do. So yeah, this is just a very basic droney bass. So not much going on here. A little bit of saturation just to boost the bottom end a bit, and obviously I've cut off all the high end frequencies from this particular one. So if I just play that one for you, it's very simple. But it just adds that extra low end to the break. And then moving down, I've got a vocal loop that I've chopped up to use to provide some energy for the drop. So just play that one for you. And that's a side chained loop. So I'm just using LFO tool here to side chain it. Without that, it would just sound too much. Fantastic tool, so I use this a lot in my tracks these days. Okay, so the next bit is just like an 8080 style bass. Obviously I've rolled off a lot of the low end frequencies because that's where my kick and bass are living at the moment, but it just gives it a bit more punch, a bit more drive. And here I have another sample, which I use as a transition into the drop. I'm also using it earlier on just to fill out the transitions into each of the different parts. And then moving down, we have the vocal elements. So this is the sample that actually says "Take Me Up." It's got a lot of reverb on it. The reason being is I really wanted to push this a bit further back in the mix. The vocal sample itself was actually a little bit cheesy, so I've only cut the bit that I wanted out of it. I think it gives it that sort of that energy and that drive. So if I just play this for you, it seems to fit the track really well. And as you can hear, it's got an awful lot of. It's a very wet reverb. I'm using a shaper box on this one actually to provide the side chain. I've also got a Mani Triple D, which is actually a really useful tool for basically carving out the boxiness in the sound. So it's a pretty simple one. It comes from Waves. And it's just got these 3 dials basically. So using it on vocals, you can take out the sort of the boxy, deep, low-endy bits that you don't want from the frequency range. And you've also got a couple of DSs here and a deharsher, which is really good for taking out the hisses that you don't want to hear, the really high-end bits that just make a sound quite nasty and hard to listen to. What else is on here? And obviously we got a big delay because I wanted this to sort of, I didn't want it to just drop off. I wanted it to provide the energy throughout the drop. Then we've got a couple of extra vocals. So these are just little fills that I'm using, very much like effects, really. So I'll just solo these, and you'll hear what they are. Just little vocal chops, basically. Similar sort of processing actually to the other vocal sample. Lots of wet reverb, bit of delay, and a shaper box just to give it a bit more room. So I'm using it as a side chain. And these are just all the little transitions, basically, between each of the sections in the track. Okay, so moving down, I've got an organ sound, which is actually 3 layers in essence. They're not organs as such. They have that sort of organish sort of sound to them, if that's even a word. So let me just solo this. It's probably one of my favourite elements in the track, actually. So yeah, I'll just play this. So this is basically 3 layers. So on here I've got a couple of Repro 5s from UHE, and they're actually just presets that I fiddled with ever so slightly. As you can see, I rolled off a lot of the bottom end on this one, and I've got a diva in there as well. So this top one's playing the sort of sustained organy sound, and these are quite percussive. They sound like pianos. Just bring those up. So if I just bring that on the screen, yeah. So that's just a preset from the built-in Repro 5 pack, and then I've got another one here, which is just an electric piano. Actually, again, another preset that I've tweaked ever so slightly. Just played around with the envelope a little bit, just to make it a little bit shorter and pluckier. And then the diva, which is a can piano, which is kind of like a muted sort of piano sound. Very nice. As a triplet of layers, they actually go together really well. Processing wise, again, got the vintage verb going on there that just gives it that sort of that lush sort of pad sound. I'm a big fan of reverb on these sort of elements. Quite a boost in the high end, really, just to help it cut through the mix, and a shaper box so that when it comes in a bit later on, it's side chained and gives the rest of the mix a bit of room to breathe. Okay, next element is a fill, which is actually just a couple of snare samples in a drum rack. So nothing particularly special here, it's just a couple of hits. Better if I solo it. 2 secs. Okay, and they just help to again add a bit of ear candy and define the transition into the next section of the track. Okay, so what else have we got? So onto the bass. So the bass is several layers actually, all sort of switching up. Most of these come from Serum, and actually a bit of a quite a lot of them are actually fed by the Sunnylax Studio Volume series of preset packs. Actually, let me just get up the name. So yeah, sorry, Sunnylax Serum Essentials Volume 1 and 2. Lots of really great sounds for bass in there, if that's your thing. So let me just give you a solo view of these. There's a lot of bass elements all playing off each other, basically. Yeah, really proud of this bass. Really gives it that sort of drive. Layered up, they all work really well together. So I'll just play each of the elements separately. So starting from the top, really gritty sort of top sound there. Lots of automation going on with this one, just playing around with the macros. So distortion and width of the sound I'm manipulating quite frequently. Next one is playing the same pattern but just giving it a bit more body. Again, a lot of automation going on here. And this is playing again with the width and distortion of the preset. What else we got? Not that one. That is the almost like a talking sound, really, which again is another Sunnylax sound. I have fiddled with this ever so slightly to get it hitting right, so a little bit of a change to the envelope. Played around with the wavetable ever so slightly, so I've changed this one ever so slightly. Not enormous amounts, but just enough to make it fit the track. Processing wise, none. Most of the processing happens up here. And what else we got? So let's move on to that one. Just like a square sound, square wave sound, just giving it a bit more body. And then finally, I've got a plucky bass, which is sort of playing a different rhythm, just to give it a bit more drive, really, and play something a bit alternative to the others. I think without it, it didn't really work. So if I play without it, you'll hear what I mean. Just a bit empty. So ultimately, this helped fill it all out. Okay, so onto the leads. So leads-wise, most of these are playing the same pattern, and it's the repeating arp that you hear throughout most of the track. To be fair, so pretty simple pattern. It's just that. Nothing particularly clever going on there. And again, each of these are playing the same pattern, I believe. Yep. Okay, so it's just 4 layers, same pattern. I'll just run through them. So if I just play that and solo that off. So we've got a Serum, which is a plucky sound again from the Sunnylax pack. I played around with the decay here just to give it a bit more, bit shorter decay, really, make it more plucky. But other than that, it's pretty out of the box. And then I've got another Serum instance, which again is playing where's that from? That is again from the Sunnylax. This I have fettled ever so slightly just to play around with the wavetable that it's using, and again I've sort of shortened the decay on the sound just to give it a bit more of a plucky feeling. There's quite a bit of reverb on there as well, as you can hear, so I'm using Valhalla to over the top of them just to give it a bit more space, and gives it that sort of lush feel. Then I've got a Spire, which is just a very simple square wave. I think that might even just be a single oscillator square wave. Oh no, two. So one square and a saw. Okay, nothing particularly special there either. Just a very simple pluck. And again, another spire, which is actually the same preset actually, but just played a little bit lower just to give the whole thing a bit more body. And altogether, they layer up like that. Okay, I do have an instance of OTT, which is actually over the top, and that is quite a good multi-band compressor. And I use this really just to bring out some of the highs and the mids in the mix. It's really good for allowing sounds that ordinarily just out of the box don't work to sort of really cut through the mix. Really good tool that, and it's free. You can see a lot of cutting on the EQ on the group track there, so this is just really to cut out all of the muddy and resonant frequencies because I've layered quite a few different plucky leads together there. Okay, so the last three elements on the track are the pads. So let me just expand these out for you. We've got 3 layers going on. They're all serums, and they all come from, again, the Sunilux pack. So you'll see I've got a bit of panning going on here. This is just to give it a bit more width. Just play these soloed for you. 2 seconds. Altogether, it just sort of gives that really lush, wide kind of pad sound with plenty of reverb. Just a really lush sound. Together with the organs and all the elements, seem to work really well. And finally, we have the piano, which is playing the main lead. So I'll just bring that in. Really simplistic pattern for this one, but it just worked really well. And this has really become my go-to piano now. It's a plug-in by UAD called the Ravel Grand Piano. Really lush sample-based piano. And on top of that, I have a UAD tape echo, which just provides this extra tail at the end, just to help the transition from the break to the drop. Get some really lovely effects from that. And that is the track. So just want to say thank you ever so much for watching. And again, the track is out on Mondo Records on the 20th of Jan. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for the support, and take care.